and welcome to the Full Gear Review. We are the Dadley Boyz of What Culture. I'm Adam Wilborn, joined by Michael Hamlet and Michael Sidgwick, here to review everything that happened on the weekend's pay-per-view AEW Full Gear. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we do daily wrestling podcasts where we review AEW Dynamite, AEW Collision, Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0. Pay-per-views, premium live events. We have interviews, roundtable discussions, and a round of the week complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on Wrestle Culture. We are live on YouTube, and I will get around to all of your lovely questions in due course. But Sidge, we are here to review AEW Full Gear from the weekend. What did you make of the show?
Oh, well, it was uneven. Another Tale of Two Companies deal from All Elite Wrestling in 2023. And truthfully, I thought the best story that emerged on the night was not one that AEW told. There's been a lot of debate about AEW, a kind of a civil war amongst the fan base. This wrestling versus sports entertainment debate has raged on. It's become the defining discourse, I think, surrounding AEW in 2023. And my God, were there two very pointed examples, and little ones, in fact, scattered throughout the night of the approach they should take going forward. It felt almost like a message from on high. But we'll get to it as we delve through the matches.
Yeah, it's sort of, on one hand, a very controversial main event and the way that they structured that throughout the show. On the other hand, the best Texas death match ever?
I think so. Best Texas Death Match ever. Best version of that kind of match AEW have ever done, and they've raised the bar over and over again before to try and make every one they do the best one. So just an incredible achievement. I love this show. I didn't watch live, and then I logged on to read the conversation that Sidge just described, that civil war that is continuing. I get bits of evidence from one side in particular to say, no, this is the way AEW's got to be. And I genuinely felt like the last couple of weeks where there's been this sneaking suspicion that they might actually be trying again was paid off. I felt like as a pay-per-view experience, it was my favorite since Revolution, realistically. The match quality wasn't anywhere near as high as the ones that Tony Khan's been carnival barkering about, but I don't care. Like, there's good matches in wrestling all the time. I need to care about the results, and the winners and losers made me feel like the booking on television has been, certainly in the last couple of weeks, just right at just the right time. But I did feel like I was in a minority. A lot of anger about sizable portions of this show.
Yeah, before we dive into it, I'll jump into some of the comments here. Matt Rains, thank you as always for your donations.
Thank you, mate.
Says, morning, gents. Sidge, I thought we'd do a live rating, as I haven't done one in a while. Thought the show is sensational, and in a hotter period would have been a 9.5 or 9.6. Having said that, 9.1 out of 10 for me. Your thought?
Oh, the thing is, and we will get into it, and I will elaborate. Thank you for your donation. Continued support means the world to me. Thank you so much. I kept getting taken out of the show because, I make a noise that you might be familiar with just throughout when certain things were getting announced. And then, all right, okay, Jay White's the new champion. And, someone else has got something to say about that. It is the surgically repaired, hobbling on one leg, Adam Cole. They created a match graphic. And just a lot of the times throughout the show, which peaked very highly, I just went, huh? So an 8.5.
Okay.
Very much informed by some, greatest of all time peaks.
Let's dive into it then. 0 Hour, Eddie Kingston defended the ROH World title against Jay Lethal in a very sort of by the numbers, typical Jarrett lot trying to get involved, etc. But Eddie Kingston wins out in the end. Actually, before we move past that, Eddie Kingston's now putting his New Japan Strong and ROH World title on the line in this Continental Classic.
Yeah, on the Continental Classic, very, very quickly, there's lots to go through, and I'm very excited to get into much of it. I exited the experience of Full Gear and the presser in a worse mood about the Continental Classic than I was before I switched the show on. Two reasons primarily. That line, that WWE adjacent, put your money where your fucking mouth is line on the press conference, I was kind of flabbergasted by that. At first, I kind of knew it's a wrestling promoter doing something. There's always a cynical aspect to whatever they do. But I did feel like it was a make good of sorts, a celebration of the roster we have. You know what? It's kind of about time we kind of did this thing on TV, and not before time. Felt like a cynical response to a lot of criticism. Cynical in a good way, if that makes sense. Now it feels like spite. Oh, go on then. Feels like it's tailor-made to like neg people, with like the clean finishes and everyone should be barred from ringside and all the rest of it. I don't want to say it's done out of spite, but it definitely felt like, oh well, if you think you could do it so well, here's something on a platter for you.
I'll let you, Brian, win the precious belt, but then we'll see how we get on against Kane, shall we?
That sort of thing, yeah. And additionally, I love Eddie Kingston, but I do not believe in the belts he holds. I believe that he believes in them, but I don't really believe in them. So when it all became about this triple crown, which I still kind of comprehend incidentally, I went, I was honestly, when they said best tournament ever, that was Bryan Danielson's words.
Yeah.
And when they said 12 of the best, it was basically the G1. It was All Elite Wrestling does the Grade 1 Climax tournament. And I was like, okay, Kenny versus Swerve, awesome. Danielson versus whoever, awesome.
Briscoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking, is it that tier now?
Do you know
It's not Omega going to wrestle Danielson in the final at Thingy. It's not Omega versus Swerve, which...
Oh my God.
It's going to be a little bit less than that.
Do you know what?
For a prize that I don't really care about.
Yeah, the vibe I
Yeah.
got from it, because I didn't even necessarily early on envisage a trophy. Like, I was like, it probably will do. Owen Hart Cup, obviously they have for that. But I wasn't picturing that. I was like, the bragging rights of saying you won this, that you could
Title
then
shot at Revolution.
exactly
Yeah.
parlay into a title shot. Do you know what it felt like now? Like a This Morning competition where it's like, you win flights to this place and £10,000 cash and a car. It's like you win the New Japan Strong and the ROH and the Continental title. I don't know. What do you think of it?
I loved the Eddie Kingston promo because I liked the one he cut.
Because apparently on the show you like things that make no sense.
It would appear that way,
Hey,
wouldn't
hey,
it?
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
It was weird, yeah. Yes, I liked it because it made absolutely no sense. I was thinking about it as he was talking. I'm not the first person to raise this. It's a frigging round robin, Eddie, mate. Like, if you lose the title in this first match, you're not even out the tournament and you've just given away your belts. That was pretty dumb. Like, so I was like, well, I want to see what that looks like. That's pretty weird. And then there'd already been a whisper somewhere else on the broadcast about a championship. I was like, don't say that word. I don't want a Continental Classic Championship, whatever it is. They must have misspoke. Must just be a trophy, like you say. And then Kingston was like, 3 belts. I was like, wait, I want to look at it. I want to see what this is about. But did Kingston just spoiler his way all the way to the final? Or moreover, did he politic his way to the final? Well, I guess my belts are on line every time. Clean sweep.
Yeah, but yeah.
It doesn't work.
That's a good point. Yeah,
it does not work.
If a heel beats Kingston in the early stages,
They're the champion.
Then they go, so you're going to put all the belts on the line for the eventual winner? And they just go, no.
Yeah. It's because it's 3 points for a win, 1 for a draw. So that's going to confuse the Americans. What about overtime? Right, that's how football works. Like, what the hell is this? Goddamn TK with his Fulham Jags over there.
We'll get into more of this later on with the confusion because...
It's good, though. It's weird. We're going to Dynamite. We've got like 3 out of a field of 16 or whatever, as we don't know the rules
we
or the belts or
actually
anything.
have called a few of them, haven't we? We didn't get Andrade, but we got Mark
Briscoe.
Yeah.
It's just weird. It's starting on Wednesday.
I want to start doing maths.
Yeah. Can't even name the wrestlers.
I know.
Claudio beat Buddy Matthews on 0 Hour, and MJF and Samoa Joe unsurprisingly retained the ROH tag team titles. They'd confirmed, hadn't they, on the night before that Samoa Joe was
Rampage, yeah.
MJF had selected Samoa Joe as his partner, obviously giving him a title shot down the road. So they win, they celebrate. Samoa Joe leaves, and Adam Cole is left to watch MJF get Pillmanized by the Guns, a story that would lead into the show. I sense there's 2 different avenues on this angle straight out the gate.
I'll go first because Sidge is, I think, going to reflect the takes of people watching more and listening more. I like
correct takes.
I like show long storylines.
Do you?
And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty thick actually. And
Me too,
I'm
but-
the last guy that likes MJF. It would appear kind of the last guy to enjoy the MJF AEW title run. But I will point out the plot hole that did annoy me. Samoa Joe isn't the #1 contender. He's got a title shot off MJF. so you don't protect him for the duration of the tag. I get it. He's a heel. He wants to like preserve MJF here, but then after that, sod you. No, you've kind of set your stall out now. You kind of have to protect him until you get your shot.
Yeah.
Like, so him getting Pillmanized.
Because Jay White should, by rights, have defeated MJF.
Yeah, like, so if they're attacking...
And Jay White owes no title shot to Joe.
Exactly, yeah.
Who hasn't won the matches in the non-existing ranking system that would get him to that level.
Yes, this is very much Sidge. Randy Savage got promised title shot by Slaughter. He didn't get promised one off Warrior. That's why Slaughter had to win. Joe should be protecting MJF's title, and that was a bit of a failing of this for me. I know there was one of many, really, but I just really liked MJF being too injured and the drama that unfolded. The preposterous idea. I love the graphic. The like stupidity of this graphic. That's going to feature in a list that we're going to write in a few years' time. Yeah. This match nearly happened. Like, I like when they go full tilt on, well, this stupid solution cannot fix this problem. Like, I never once believed... So what it did make me think, by the way, was that we were going to see that Adam Cole was the devil. The fact that he was randomly suddenly in the building, I thought the boot was going to come off and it was going to be revealed as nowhere near as serious as we thought. And the match with Jay White was going to... Adam Cole, what's he doing? He's laying down. What's he frigging doing? And then he screwed MJF out of the title because I thought... And then even in the match itself, I was like, Cole must be thinking... He's just showing me an ambulance. There's my plan out the fucking window. Now I'm gonna have to work this out. And then the belt shot tease with the Ring of Honor tag belt. Oh my god! Like I thought all of these things were going to be about Adam Cole revealing himself as the devil, and that's why all of this took place. And it didn't. And I'm patient it still might, and you could still use all these clues. But exactly. I fully accept every criticism of which I've seen hundreds levied at all of
Exactly. The classic line that you automatically think of, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled thing in The Usual Suspects is he's walking and then he could take off the boot and be walking normally. I get that played into it, but I did have that mental process, Sage, of
what?
Wait a second. Adam Cole isn't medically cleared to defend the ROH tag belts, but you want to defend the AEW World title in the main event? Have at it.
It's just, all of this was so absurd, nonsensical, and overthought. And I don't think the ends even remotely justified the means, but we'll get into that when we review the main event. So Adam Cole is not medically cleared to defend the ROH World Tag Team titles. He is suddenly permitted to defend on MJF's behalf. He doesn't even want it, which is another... everything's bad. Like, everything is bad. It's one of those things, like, the more you think about it, the stupider it gets. So he isn't medically cleared to defend the ROH World Tag Team titles. He is then cleared, otherwise AEW would have a massive sort of problem legally on their hands. If you think about this thing for more than a second, and this promotion used to encourage that, but he is allowed by the medical team to defend and hop in, literally, on someone else's behalf. So he doesn't really care that much about the title. He cares more about his friendship. Like, give me a break. The AEW World title, right? And before Tony Khan rules, okay, my badly injured, one of my top stars who could and will suffer an injury in this match that could end his career, right? All right, okay, you can do that, but until you interject, I'll just award Jay White the title before vacating it and creating an interim, which I've set the precedent for doing, which
that was weird.
Itself was a terrible mistake.
Like, reward the attack. We've set this attack up. We've put him in the hospital. Well, you're the champion then. Well done.
It's absolutely absurd, nonsensical. They haven't thought anywhere near enough about it. In fact, they've thought too much about everything else. And it was just so impossible to invest in. Like, so impossible. And I think I was in a mood before the main event began. We'll get to it. We'll get to everything else. We haven't even started reviewing the show yet. But the idea that they did all of this, like every single person on X, like these, I feel bad. These aren't insights. These are just the complaints everyone has made, the questions everybody has asked. I wonder if I just watched the Guns, like, attack MJF in a stairwell or an alleyway, backstage or whatever, before the match. And he's like, no, I'm doing it. It's like, well, but it's probably not a good idea to clear you, but I don't care, I'm going to do it. And then has the 30 minutes leg cell match. If it wasn't so convoluted, maybe I would have been kinder. But the whole irony of, there's going to be stories in wrestling and stories this and characters this and story first, is that when you tell a bad one and not the simplest one possible, right, okay, and an idea to be too clever about it, is that you actually ruin the investment before the bell rings.
Just on this minute, I know, we're flying all over the place here.
I will say questions yet.
The one single take that everybody agreed on before Jay White and MJF last week
Was that there were at least 10 things wrong with it?
was that there was never going to be a title change.
This is a total overcorrection, though.
I will accept that. I think they addressed that. I think this whole show-long story, MJF getting injured, regardless of how it played out. Now, I am speaking a lot on AEW at the moment about cleaning up messes, right? And I know that's not best practice. Just
Let's create 10 more then.
Don't make the mess. I appreciate you're not supposed to make the mess, but I feel like this was another attempt to clean up a bit of a mess. We've kind of bodged this story. Nobody really buys Jay White as being able to win this title, and there were at least, I would say, sort of 3 hot near falls in the main event that made you think he might. Now, regardless of if that's because Adam Cole was there or because MJF was overselling the knee or whatever, overcorrection is right.
Why did he pin him then?
Stop making the mess.
Well, this is it. I will say,
Could have just built the whole thing around the Blade Runner.
I will say,
Because they'd already done that on TV, which is wasteful in retrospect.
I did buy Jay White winning the title because I thought, well, if he doesn't, he's absolutely finished. But we'll get back to that.
I don't think it's finished, but it's not good. It's a long road back.
It's a booking casualty, isn't it?
I mean, why would I ever buy him winning any match ever again?
Yeah, but,
He can't beat a one-legged man.
Challenges have to lead, don't they, sometimes?
But not like this.
Yeah.
Maybe not, no.
Anyway,
It would matter more if
start at the beginning of the show.
people have personal investment and you would be devastated. Sorry.
It was Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, Nick Wayne versus Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland with Ric Flair.
Ugh.
Yeah, don't ruin it.
And a mirroring of the low blow shot from
Yes.
No Times, I think.
2020 PC Raw.
Yeah. It's one of those where it's like, I initially popped, but then I thought, I don't want to enjoy this. I don't even want to enjoy the fictional catharsis of someone doing something bad and deserved to a bad person. So I was like, no, they're not allowed anything.
Yeah.
This match, we're not going to go on the play-by-play, move-by-move. You've seen it.
Yeah.
And we have a limited time frame. It was class for what it was. They basically did nothing with Copeland and Christian, but that was the point. That was the central story of the match. They did an incredible job of it. And they left me wanting them to actually interact later down the line. Considering this was a match to build a match, and that's often, the connotations of that are often quite bad. This is the perfect way of doing that. Like, Christian Cage wrestled this match like a cockroach. They talk a lot about his diamond shot mind. Like Copeland was just saying how everyone looks better in the ring. A lot of people saw Christian Cage's mind for this business, and you see it a lot. Like they crystallized it here. Like the idea that his mind and how to structure a match and what to do in a match and when and what to build going forward is on display mentally because he was barely physically present. Like his cowardice practically acted like a censor for whenever Copeland was about to get in the ring, just like a cockroach, a rat scurrying away, and then just the little things that he does or barely does in this match to just be a bastard, but to avoid his comeuppance were glorious. Like the bit where Darby Allin's running the ropes. It's like you can just see things that nobody else can. It's like, right, I'm just going to get his head, crack it across the back of the head, top turnbuckle. That will allow Luchasaurus to just choke slam on the apron, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah.
And then he borrows a note from Dax Harwood, 2016 NXT, goes under the ring to cut off a hot tag. He's wrestling in secret, trying to be invisible because he doesn't want Copeland to see him and kick his ass. And then he runs away when he gets caught. You want to see that match.
The crowd.
It's
Runs in
AEW
the
copying their
crowd.
own homework from the Sting, Darby and Punk match, isn't
Yeah.
it, with MJF. It was brilliant that time. It's worked again.
So you get Christian Cage being a complete cockroach, invisible coward. He then runs away. You then get like the 3 cool baby faces and their wonderful aesthetic, which I'll get to you on. And you get to see them do their greatest hits. And then you save Christian Cage versus Copeland for another day for what it was and what it functioned to do. This wasn't a blow away great match. I thought it was really, really good, but it was perfect for what it was.
Yeah, fantastic opener. One of many on this show where it was in exactly the right spot to maximise, I think, like, I don't want to say minimal TV investment, but just like that kind of mid TV investment. I don't think we're possibly as excited as you
I
should.
like it, and I admire the booking, but I don't love it.
Yeah, 6 months ago on paper, this was a far more fascinating prospect than what we've arrived at, but it just fit perfectly as an opener. The 3 baby faces looked unbelievable in the matching gear. We've seen like Edge with the half face paint with Darby Allin and the two of them, and the way they like put over Sting at the end, Darby Allin with all his effing and jeffing because he's excited because he was off to climb Everest today.
He's not, apparently.
Oh.
I think he's doing his training to do it because there's a limited window in which to do the tours between April and something else.
Mad. But it was just seeing them all together. It was very effective at, again, like telling you the story of what these three would look like as a team, as well as just the Christian thing. It was like Edge, Sting and Darby Allin. Oh. Yeah. And then they produce that. They gave you that visual, and that's not easy to pull off because you have these kind of like wild expectations in your head. It was Punk, Darby, and Sting. And it was also like Rey Mysterio going to New Japan and forming the babyface super team. You know, like it was just one of these great moments. And Sting should now only have great moments. He should deal exclusively in moments like this. And it's such a great thing they've got till Revolution to just produce more of them. This should be one of the most fun things that Tony Khan gets to do at work. It's like, what more magic can we make with Sting while we've still got him? Like, and all the wrestlers will want to do it. Like Edge will have probably bought those jackets. Are you kidding? We all get to dress up as mates. I'm banging that. Like, that's such a great thing you've got with Sting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. And the dynamic, like, because I was very snarky of like, they start, Christian gets in, Adam Cole gets in, and I was like, well, why would you just waste that? Like, arms full. Why would you do that straight out of the gate? That's
what a mark.
And then I was like, brilliant. And then you said you didn't want to fight him. Now you really want to, and he's being a little bitch and running off into the crowd. It was really good fun.
First time.
and then they're like, you've got full face, mate. You've got this half of your face, and you've got this half. Great. Really
Suddenly the Raw reviews we do make so much more sense.
Let's get the international title match next. Orange Cassidy versus John Moxley. Obviously brilliantly built with the Mox no sell of the Orange Punch on Dynamite, and that factored into this match as well.
Very, very, very good, but also bittersweet. This would have worked so much better had the original plan unfolded without the horrible real-world circumstances of the injury and everything. Because if you notice, I'm pretty sure the Dynamite after All Out, Cassidy sold the devastation of that title loss, and that was meant to be his character arc of not the same without it. Not only do I want to try, but I just want to keep trying. That's my new character. And he was disconsolate over losing it. And I think the idea was Moxley was just going to win and win and win and win and win. And Cassidy was going to win back the belt, thus canonizing him as, you know what, if he beats John Moxley clean, he's on that top tier of Mox, Jericho, MJF, whatever. The story they told in this match reflected that because Mox was in full final boss mode, just eating everything, no-selling everything, like swaggering around like Road Warrior Hawk is like the whole, and I thought it was totally like really good showmanship, badass performance, but that would have resonated and I would have felt so much more for it had he actually destroyed All Comers himself. But he hadn't, he didn't even have the gold to get back off him.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because of the Phoenix stuff. So it just felt like the thing that Orange Cassidy had to do to become in that tier, but it also felt like the thing AEW had to do to reset the board. So really good story. I just think that there was a disconnect because of the previous month.
Yeah, I will say, like, it was never going to live up to the sheer quality of the all-out match and the story that we were all telling our heads before the injuries. I think that's the worst thing, is that what they've done is they've put the building blocks in place with just how fantastic that all-out main event was. And then Orange Cassidy's immediate follow-up that you'd arrived at this match on this pay-per-view. You just never would have predicted the way we got here. But even when the best match on this show, you could argue, was a little bit overthought. I still can't make my mind up, but you could certainly have the argument that even the best match was overthought. I was just really impressed with how unfussy this was. This was everything I wanted. Said on the preview, like, I just want Orange Cassidy to win. I just want something to feel. With John Moxley, I just want it to feel conclusive, because I sort of feel like, because of the BCC's weird year, I feel like I had the Hangman Page loss taken away from me a little bit, you know, and he did it twice, really. Did that finish and then did it again in Blood and Guts, and he tapped out on Utah's behalf, didn't he? Or he gave up on Utah's behalf. I don't really feel like I've had any sort of proper John Moxley character development. Oh, he's angry. Big deal. He's always angry even when he's in the best mood. This was definitive. Like, John Moxley was not the better man, and you don't get to say that very often in this way. And I like that. Again, just unfussy. It got Orange Cassidy where he needed to be. And I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't think the national title is where he needs to be anymore. He has surpassed that. This is Steve Austin winning back the Intercontinental title when it's very clear he needs to be moving onwards and upwards. So you now probably need to find the right person for Orange Cassidy to hand that belt to. But the Moxley element of it has been effective for me.
Did you think when Claudio and Wheeler sort of tended to him that they were going to turn on him.
Oh, I
got really excited. I got really excited.
Lost faith in the leader. And then it was just like the best friends came out. I was like, oh, we're all fighting again.
Yeah.
Squabbling again.
We did get our first title change of the night in the next match, though. Hikaru Shida was defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Timeless Toni Storm, winning via, what was it? It was like a plate or something.
Like a metal serving tray.
An ace.
They'd already done the shoe spot, which I thought was very clever, of like, here's the shoe, actually, second shoe. This was very
rubbish
entertainment.
Well, this is the point I made in the intro, okay? It felt like there was a story like fated upon AEW, if that makes any sense. I've seen Hikaru Shida and Toni Storm, right, wrestle a way better match than theirs. This was borderline disaster because of the stupid gimmicks that was smothered on top of it, and it all went awry. I'm not saying there's no value in this Timeless Toni Storm character. Certainly the genesis of it was incredibly funny. But, you overcomplicate things and sometimes you just get made a fool of. And that's exactly what happened here. When Hikaru Shida logically went after Toni Storm's already minced chest, I was into it. When Toni Storm was clobbering Hikaru Shida was clobbering Toni Storm on the back of the neck, I was getting really into it. And then they did the decoy with the shoe and the plate. And oh my God. This just
she's trying to get herself DQ'd technically as well. She got the kendo stick.
Technically,
no, I think Luther's timing was off. So I think
is that what that was?
I think she was going to go for, or maybe she was just going to go for.
There've been a few
Storm.
of these, like they forget about titles and DQs and the Eddie. Like everyone's obsessed with the Eddie Guerrero thing at the moment. It's like, well, if the champion gets DQ'd, no bother. You just get the loser's share of the person. You keep your belt. They're forgetting that a lot. That was a plot hole at Wembley, and it was forgivable, but it was a pretty big one.
The idea that Aubrey Edwards just had to ignore that there was a metal plate sticking out of her ass was just absolutely, it was just unfathomably stupid, and it just felt so unbelievably fake. It just wasn't playing along at all, and she actually had to go back, do more mugging for the camera while she put it back in there for what felt like... the bin lids used to get in the Attitude Era. No, the bacon sheets used to get in that. Yeah. Felt like they just stenciled one of them and took it out. Like, poor Shida having to sell that when later on Hangman and Swerve were doing all of that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
This is just so stupid. But almost poetically bad is my succinct description of this match.
I'm not quite sure as well. Overthought again. I'm not quite sure why this Toni Storm needed to cheat like that to win. I thought this match was a disappointment. I don't think it hit the heights of a Shida Storm match. I don't think the fans were particularly with it. I don't think some of the Timeless Toni Storm character stuff when she was on offense worked as well. But just because it's not over yet, she was doing like some of the wind-up punches and that, and I get that she's trying to almost like play into this new gimmick. But you shouldn't do it at the expense of your work. You should be able to fold one into the other. And I think she's still working out that, and I think that's fine. But it was already... trending quite way below what we all thought it was going to be because of the two of them. And then I cannot for the life of me fathom why she had to win like that. Like, Timeless Toni Storm.
She's a baddie.
Yeah. But, the Luther distraction could just, make time for her to get back in the match and then beat her. Point of Toni Storm being so effective in AEW is that she has kill shots. It's not just, with or without the tray. That is a finisher. The Storm Zero, the Storm 1, these are vicious kill shots.
Right. On that, Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer, Figure4Weekly.com, WrestlingObserver.com. I love him. We say this affectionately.
We do. Yeah, we love him.
Figure4WeeklyOnline.com, WrestlingObserver.com. Let him use to get into Dave. I love him.
Tell him what happened.
He, as a former worker, used to recoil in horror at the hip attack. Genuinely, every single week, Thursday, my commute home, love listening to that podcast. Brian Alvarez would recoil in horror at the idea that someone's going to get hurt doing that move. I don't know how she works it. Right. Did anyone have that feeling when that thing was sticking out of her arse?
No.
With this stupid gimmick?
No.
Then shelve it.
You made it worse. Yeah.
Correct.
And they did do they're plotting the All About Eve?
Yeah, All About Eve. Mariah May.
Flowers afterwards.
They called it. Didn't have to call it. She's literally giving her flowers. Yeah. You don't need to call that bit. I like it when you call it on Raw. And I still like the black and white stuff, by the way. I like that visual effect. I welcome it. It's something a bit different, isn't it? Looks a bit different to the rest of the show. It's the buffet, innit, Sige?
Yeah, that's what I wanted. That's what I signed up for.
And this is Mr. Black and White. He supports Newcastle.
20% of me does.
Sorry, yeah. Moving on. 4-way ladder match.
Timeless Tino Aspria.
When did this become a ladder match? Over the weekend. Friday night, yeah.
Did the champs call for it? Did I see a promo where Starks and Big Bill were like, better fight in a bloody ladder match or something like that?
It was the champs, Ricky Starks and Big Bill. Versus LFI versus FTR versus the Kings of the Black Throne.
Oh my God, I love this match so much.
Yeah,
I had no expectation to enjoy this match. I have been completely and utterly desensitized to ladder matches. But then, Tony Khan, man, Tony Khan. He'll do something and you think, you still got this. You're still fighting for that title of Wrestling Observer Newsletter, Best Cooker and Promoter of the Year, 2023.
I'm this Tony Khan.
Because when you realise the assorted talents of those involved, it's like what a hybrid match this was. You got house fight elements, like a really sort of like rugged, unvarnished scrap element with FTR. Just gluing it together in a really nice way where there was like attempts to win and just attempts to fight and not just, erect a platform for a high spot, etc., etc., etc. And I just, like, the whole idea was this kind of a showcase for what passes for the tag division on Collision, and it was awesome. And I wanted at least 3 of these teams, like, create separate tag team belts so I can just enjoy some of them being champions because I loved it so much. Malachi Black, right, not to be reductive, but he's tried to be spooky throughout his career, and it really hasn't worked. On occasion, he's got this presence, like that Dynamite debut entrance, like certain times when he sat down, it's like, there is an aura in you. My God, he was like a poltergeist with that spot with the ladder. It's like, oh my God, it's like magic with a K. It's like you are actually performing in character, and this is, again, goes back to my little conceit I'm developing about sports entertainment versus pro wrestling and how you can do things in the context of a wrestling match that tell stories without all this hacky, episodic stuff, which you kind of have to do, and I have enjoyed it. But I've heard him talk bollocks routinely, and I don't think I could ever adequately explain what he's saying. In the body of a wrestling match, in that magic moment of suspended disbelief, I thought he could make ladders move. With his mind. You know what I mean? Like, it was just so clever and so ingenious and so in character. You can do all this without talking bollocks, any props or skits.
And decorators. What the this?
And then you see a Ganzo bomb through a suspended ladder, and I thought Jalisco's got no head left.
Yes.
What a shame.
Unbelievable.
What a shame. What's even the best pile driver on it? Well, there was another pile driver on a ladder. That was absolutely incredible. Jalisco brought the high flying. You had the horse fight. FTR were just brawling. Roosh, by the way, is a hot take for a podcast for you. Gunther's still got the best chop in wrestling. I'm not going to do any sacrilege here, right? But what's so good about him, it's like the Okada dropkick of chops. Like, he knows exactly when to do the loudest one at the right moments in the match. Roosh, right, with like no drawback or registering whatsoever, can just go like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, okay, you've just flayed someone's skin off.
What do they call it in football? No backlift.
Yes,
whatever,
no backlift. I just does that. It's like, like kicked Dax Harwood's ass on Collision. It was absolutely great. This match made me feel things for a ladder match and how creative without being contrived and waiting around.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was all the things that it had no right to be, really. Like, it was a 4-way. I mean, despite the rich history of them, I don't like watching them all that often. It was a ladder match, don't need any of them. It was a division, like it was a roster more than a division. It felt
House
like
of Black getting a shot for what reason?
They're on the tag roster.
Well, because they kick ass, that's why. Kings of the Black Throne.
And you got Cash doing his John Moxley arm impression on the top rope, trying to keep his balance before that high spot.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they had to reset the ladder for that, and I just forgave him. I was like, yeah, because that happened at the end of it. I was like, fine, just keep doing it. Loved Starks. Like, it wasn't that he wasn't in the match, but
Shades of Adam Cole at War Games 2017.
He's like, I'm not going to give you one, but I want to see a heel act like that in a multi-person ladder match. I like that kind of character work because there's time and a place to do those big bumps and go for it. But if you're a champion and you're a heel, just avoid it all as best as you can. And like, you get the big moment at the end. I don't know. It's one of those ways that you get a bit of character in your multi-man ladder match, because I would say the Brody King spot the same. Like that is absolute psycho behavior. And I love Big Bill, but Big Bill can't do that. If he does a Ganzo bomb, it's like, we'll just make him the rest of the year then, because he's completed the whole game. But he can't do a Ganzo bomb, but Brody King can.
Yeah.
And I just think like Ricky Starks getting to have the moment of he can do almost nothing in this and then claim victory. That's his job. The rehabilitation of Ricky Starks is one of my favourite AEW projects of the year, from where we were at, the Jericho defeat to now.
Yeah.
I think has been like, and it's like wrestler and promotion. I think it's both sides that are finally. You can see it in the press conference between him and Tony Khan. There's some harmony there again, and it's nice.
Yeah, he really nearly got undone by a veteran. And Chris Jericho.
No?
We will get to your questions as well.
Yes.
I think you might have forgot, but I haven't. Don't worry.
I'll remember, don't worry. We'll get back to them in a second. Before that, though, we have to talk about the three-way for the AEW TBS Championship. Chris Statlander, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart.
Match of two halves for me, this, because originally they were doing these somewhat contrived three-way spots that all resulted in Sky Blue and Julia Hart creepily staring at one another. And that really just, when they started doing that, I was like, all right, hang on, okay, so what makes it creepy? All right, okay, there is apparently a physical property within mist that can change your personality. That is borderline, supernatural bobbins stuff that I hate. It's like, what? Has the mist changed you? Okay, well,
it's like half switched Sky Blue, isn't it? Like Willow was like, I'm fine.
Sure, Mulder's probably on the case watching AEW, because this is an X-File. So I hated that.
It was really dumb.
It's really dumb.
You just couldn't explain it as well.
If you think about the implication as well, it's absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
That's the explanation. Unless it's symbolizing, unless the mist is like a visual symbol of the change that would have happened through betrayal and stuff, which is one way they can square it.
Hat law. Get off my head. I've got a crown. Let's not remember Sky Blue.
So maybe these are props that are meant to visualize the personality shift rather than like magical properties that inform the personality shift. Either way, it's lame as shit. I do not like it. But second half of this match, and again, got a conceit going here. It's funny, right, that when Chris Statlander
Oh my god.
does the kip up from the double team to evade it, and then Chris Statlander starts throwing these wonderful high-angle Germans,
Oh my god.
and then Chris Statlander with, oh my, good snap,
Oh my god.
throws herself down,
Yeah.
neck first on that code blue. It's funny, like the powerhouse, badass professional wrestler either throwing people around or getting thrown around, wakes up the crowd and has the second half of this match like really cooking, as the kids say. Maybe there's a lesson.
Yeah.
Did you also do a dodgeball reference as part of her entrance?
Yeah, she was.
She loves what's he called? Stiller.
Yeah, she had the Ben Stiller gear on for her
Because
entrance.
she's done Zoolander before as well.
Those suplexes were unreal.
Yeah.
So good. I think the right time was now to switch the belt. Statlander's reign has been a positive one, if at times unspectacular, because it's AEW and they just don't really give the women's division a platform. But Statlander's been great in the role. Julia Hart had another good night, I thought. It is daft. The Sky Blue stuff is weird because they've never really made it that clear on television where Sky Blue sits. Like, they started this match as if, well, we're going to have to form an uneasy alliance.
An unholy alliance, if you will.
to stop Chris Statlander, and then they just stopped the alliance. And that was that. Like, that just fell away. But the sequence at the end as well for the finish was tremendous. Like, I've been so impressed with, like, I don't know if Julia Hart was just doing so much in the background. And in AEW, one of the advantages of having a terrible women's division is that you can develop loads while nobody's watching or paying attention, because most of your stuff happens on Rampage / Ring of Honor, and then you get like one rep per 6 weeks on Dynamite, so you can't get buried. But this last, 3 months? I think she's worked herself into this position. I think the character was the most over in the match. You could feel that as well. The momentum was with her to win the belt. It's the right time and the right call. And I look forward to this title reign.
And another trend in the anti-sports direction, like Julia Hart didn't beat Chris Statlander for this belt. Like, she beat Sky Blue, and, you know, not being funny, over the past 12 months, who hasn't? Because for a long time, Sky Blue was positioned as the person who gets beat quite frequently to give her reps.
Yeah.
So,
Rematch.
But it'll be loud and earned and a big thing at Statlander's hometown in World's End. I expect that's where it's going. So they deserve a big atmosphere for their work and their combined efforts this year. So hopefully that happens at World's End.
Yeah, no, I'd be absolutely fine with Statlander moving up to the world title, especially off the back of this performance, like you say. She's just brilliant.
Where's my burrito?
Right, let's get to it, Sige. Texas Death, Hangman Adam Page, Swerve Strickland, and the Nunettes.
Oh my god.
That's such poorly timed because now it looks like I'm a pervert.
Sorry.
Great entrance.
Great.
That was tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, this match is absolutely incredible. Easy 5 stars. It was flawed. You could argue that they both missed the peak and didn't rely on the distraction. So that was kind of flawed, which should theoretically take a rating down. Yet there were certain moments in this match and feelings that it evoked and just the sheer artistry, where I was like, better than perfect. So it kind of balanced out for me at perfect. My God, this was something else. In terms of the sheer commitment of violence, like even in one of like the less heralded spots, that wasn't one of the big action set pieces, right? Just something you kind of see in a death match. In fact, Hangman Page took this exact bump, I think, in the Moxley one at Revolution, where barbed wire chair, wedged between the top and middle turnbuckle, and you just like get thrown into it. Adam Page, his commitment to the violence and getting the tone of this right was such that it felt like a 90s striker doing a diving header into an open goal. Like, that's just how hard he did it. It's like, that's how hard he went in this match. And just the artistry, like the bit where he's stapled his child's finger paints to his cheek.
Oh,
That's absolutely incredible. But there's an early sequence with accompanying instantly iconic visuals that weren't just awesome in and of themselves, won't just be scorched into your psyche when you remember this in this year of your life, in this period of AEW, this incredible milestone in their respective careers. But it just set the tone of this brilliant story wonderfully. You've got Hangman Page drinking Swerve Strickland's blood.
Oh my god.
Wait there. I need to put someone over on Twitter because this is absolutely amazing. And I would not put this level of thought, bear with me very quickly, past Hangman Page. But I didn't notice this, so I'm going to shout out the person who did. It was Jamie Phillips. The staple gun and blood drinking spot. Am I the only one who thought the symbolism there was that Hangman was underneath Swerve, like when Swerve was looking down onto the cot?
Oh, nice.
That's really good.
Yeah.
So Hangman drinks Swerve Strickland's blood.
Oh my god.
Spits it out. It's just an absolutely incredible visual. Swerve Strickland gets the staple gun back off him, and it should be so hard to do this. Like, we were talking. Was it me and you were talking about how so few people can do crazy in wrestling? You've got Terry Funk.
yeah.
You've got Kingston when he gets that energy.
That petrol can energy.
Foley Kane Dewey. Like, it's so...
Big Show.
Shut up, man. It's so...
Seth Rollins.
It's so hard to do crazy. It
Yeah.
is so hard. And Swerve, with that maniacal cackling, I'm just going to staple myself. Not only did he pull off crazy, which puts this as 5 stars before anything because it's virtually impossible in pro wrestling the righteous. I'm sorry. Between those two iconic visuals, you've got Hangman Page saying, I can kill you and I'm determined to kill you. I will kill you by hemorrhage and drink the blood. And then you've got Swerve going, go on then. I can't die. I can't die. Kill me, kill me, kill me. That impossible tone was somehow extended throughout this entire unbelievable match. It was, you know how impressive it was that Eddie Kingston walked down to the ring in that first Anarchy in the Arena match. And it's like, I can believe that he wants to kill someone in that moment. That was that, but for like 30 minutes of the most exhilarating professional wrestling you've ever seen in your entire life. Not only did Swerve break the motor scale, but when he put the water over his face, and just a blood waterfall came out. I was like, oh my God, is he going to be okay? That's what you're meant to think. You're not really meant to think that in a death match. You're meant to think, oh, these two people they really hate each other and they're going to really badly hurt each other. You're not really meant to think, oh, is he going to die? Or does he want to kill him? How did they conjure this? It was just pro wrestling magic, one of the greatest spectacles I've ever seen. That magic thing we talk a lot about, sometimes it's as simple as I feel it and don't think about it, or I thought about this too much and couldn't get into it. just felt the most. Like awe, horror, revulsion, anxiety, everything. There's a bit, like, obviously all the major set pieces were built to brilliantly. Like, the facial expressions were fantastic. There's a bit, I mean, he's pile-driven him onto that thin guardrail. Have you ever, like, hit the top of your head really hard? Like, it knacks. Like, there's a place, Nicholas, well, actually, we might all this. Power League Soccer. It's a five-a-side court in Dunstan Gateshead, right? And the goals are probably this low, but very wide. I once picked up the ball and just stood up as if I didn't think anything was there. And I've just smacked the crown of my head, but everyone's probably hit the crown of their head. So they've done that moment.
I'm not even crying, actually, so what's the
on
problem?
the thinness of that guardrail.
Yeah.
It's just spectacular. And there's a bit as well, I was like, who am I to doubt Ellsworthy and El Hangman? Because they do a bit where I got like that groan of, lads, like not a cinder block. Because, you know, we see them in WWE. And I'm not making this a WWE versus AEW thing, even though the conceit of wrestling versus sports entertainment, so I kind of am. Where you see it and you think, it's just going to crumble and you're going to really take me out of this. No, it just bumps on a fucking brick. And it looked agonizing. Just commitment, tone, artistry. Like, everything about this was a goddamn masterpiece. And here's another thing about my conceit, right? Something goes wrong with silly gimmicks, and you've got this tiny little bit of metal, and it's slipping out of someone's trunks, and it barely hits them in the face, right? Something goes wrong in this match, and you hit Hangman Page on the back with a chair, and it looks like Hangman Page is flossing his freaking teeth with barbed wire. Like, even when it went wrong, it went right. Like, as I said, you could make the argument that there was unnecessary interference, and they may have missed their peak in terms of that feeling of, oh my God, people are going to die or get horribly injured in this match. Like, they didn't maintain that feeling throughout, but it was such an impossible feeling that I can't remember ever happening in professional wrestling ever. Maybe Necro versus Joe. This was like a more elegantly worked version of it. That I thought, Instant 5, one of the best things I've ever seen in my life. Jesus Christ. Sorry, talk, otherwise I'll keep going.
It went like half an hour as well, didn't it?
Yeah,
it absolutely flew by.
It was 10 seconds, according to Wikipedia, 10 seconds longer than the main event.
Like, I can't believe that. Like, it was just, AEW lately, one of the biggest complaints we've had, I think, has been about tone, or the tonal shifts, or the simple lack of understanding what even tone you're trying to take. And Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland might be the best example of that. Like, to go from the home invasion to nothing, really, to one last attack from Hangman Page, just in time for this pay-per-view. Not once did this veer in terms of tone. This struck the right tone all the way through, and that was key, because there is nothing worse than watching a match like this when the fans don't really feel it and you don't really feel it, and yet they are really hurting each other. Like, I know it's not real, but like some of the cuts and the bumps and whatever, like when the wrestlers are doing the things that these were doing to each other and it's simply not taken, it's an exhausting watch for the viewer, and it's just sad. I recently rewatched Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly for a list.
I was going to say, why would you do that?
For research purposes, and it's just devastating to watch these two hurt each other and nobody care. Like, and the storyline was such that had just maybe the first minute not really taken, then you'd be reminded, he did the home invasion, then Page did nothing about it. All that little complaints you had along the way might have knackered all of this, but from the very beginning, they absolutely nailed it. Hangman Page, when he's on...
Is one of the best of all time.
At his angriest, such as the run-in and such as all of this match, at his angriest, is his best self. And I loved the run-up to the Kenny Omega match, and I think it was vital that he was the anxious millennial cowboy, and they had they gambled on how to tell the story of a new kind of babyface and stuff like that. It's probably time to leave that one well alone for a good while. Like, Hangman Page needs to start getting angry because he's been defeated here, because he's got to stay angry for a while now. It's not as simple as that, and nor should it be, like with a character like Page. But I just think off the back of this defeat and off the way that he wrestled this, he should be going into generic singles matches with this kind of fire and with this kind of anger, because I think this is the way back for Hangman Page. Generally, I do. It hit me watching this match that I don't think Hangman Page is a top guy, but I think he's one of the very, very best ever to light the way. I said before this pay-per-view, he'd made Swerve before this match. Genuinely, I believe that. Swerve's interactions with Page have proven Page the guy to open the door for Swerve Strickland in the main event.
I'm desperate for him to get another title reign to prove you wrong here.
Well, and I think he will. I think he'll get another title reign, but I don't think he'll prove me wrong. I think there is absolutely nothing. Look, like, I'm a Brett guy. and he never drew, and Vince McMahon never believed him to be a star, but he obviously never saw him work in Germany. Like, I think there are pockets of people that will adore Hangman Page in the way that I adore Bret the Hitman Hart, but he'll never be the guy to lead. But what a wrestler to ready other guys. What a gift he remains to AEW in a situation.
I think he's a genius.
In a situation like this, like, what a gift he is. And this will be, I think Sid mentioned it there, like, this will be something you remember when you think of 2023. It was a match of the year candidate / match of the year. I'm saying that, people are thinking that straight away. It will be one of the defining moments of AEW's 2023 when most of them were looking to be negative. So to even put like a nice spin on the year as well. Like, this was a masterpiece. It's a shame that within 6 months we're going to see somebody else drinking blood. Like, the things that are going to get stolen from this match and bastardized and ruined. But yeah, it was amazing to be watching the first one and realizing you were watching something iconic as it was happening.
Did the Brian Cage involvement bother you at all?
Not really. When I think it was when Nana pulled Swerve to the floor and landed on his feet, I was like, Swerve's winning this. And I think I was waiting for what it was going to be that was going to give Swerve victory. That was the other thing I wanted to say about the finish.
All our 2019 vibes.
These Texas death matches with the chains, like after what Hangman did to Moxley, that's basically Hangman saying, well, this is mine now. The Texas death match is mine, and I've beaten John Moxley with a chain to prove it. And, like, this is my house. No, it's Swerve's house. To use that exact finish, I think was really nice because it shows over the course of 6 months, Page isn't right at all. He's just lost his big match in the same way he supposedly won one. Things are not fixed. That black cloud that he talked about when this feud started has not cleared.
I still think that there's 95% of the man in Swerve. 5% where it can get a little bit corny for me, not in this match. It would be promotional malpractice if he isn't a major AEW world champion next year on the back of this. Like, what would they be doing? It would be one of their biggest sins ever if they don't get there with him after this.
Yeah, people talk. We'll get to the comments in due course after we've run through all the matches.
He's not forgotten.
But people are talking about, maybe Swerve should now be the devil off the back of all this, or
I think he should win the belt. I think he should probably beat MJF.
Unquestionably. I think we got a question on the news as well this morning about this. Like, I'm not a deathmatch guy. You guys both know this, but I could not take my eyes off this.
Like a skit guy.
Yeah.
Skits and tits.
More of a let's go to chase you rather than let's cage someone's head in with a cinder block or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think the worst part of this match for me, the bit that I felt the most, was the bit you mentioned with the child's painting, because the first time I think the staple went in, but the picture didn't stay, so they were like, well, we're just gonna have to do it again. And I was like, oh, I agreed to, like,
I see. I didn't need proof, because it was one of those things, right, where it would really, really knack, but it's not like gonna give you CTE realistically. But I was like, I believe it, but I like the no, it's proof. Here's proof. Bang.
Yeah. We definitely want the picture on his face. Yeah. Can't stress that enough.
And then didn't he do another bit on his arm or something? He stapled something on his arm. Just brutal.
It's gross.
But
Nicholas. This match made me do this quite often.
It was a big one.
It's a big one. I got off.
Apologies, by the way, if you can hear any drilling. They're just putting a roof on the gaming office. Let's
Hangman Page and Swerve blew it off.
It's more work done than Vince McMahon, this building. It does.
Let's talk
gargoyle
about the next match. It was the Golden Jets against the Grumpy Young Bucks. Of course, Golden Jets lose. They have to split. Young Bucks, who, spoiler, did lose, means that they have lost their title shot. Brandon Cutler tweeting they're going to take some time away. I think it's all the work. Obviously, we talked about this on the news with Andy this morning, and Cutler's going to be their mouthpiece, I think, coming back. Or we'll talk about that.
As heels, this has got room to grow.
And maybe Hangman Page sidles up to them now. Now he can't even win this big one.
No, he needs to get away from me. He needs to kick.
I'm just saying.
Kick a lot of ass and win some titles and prove this asshole wrong. That's what Hangman Page needs to do right now.
No. The Young Bucks.
Keep the elite away.
I'm not suggesting that they should. I'm saying that's an option for them. But yeah, what did you make of the match?
Well, on some level, right? On some level, and I only say this because of what a masterpiece, like a genre greatest ever violent weapons match. We're talking ever. On some level, this tag match is one of the most impressive matches I might have ever seen. I don't know how he got the crowd that he did in the last 5 minutes. Like, it took ages. And you would never go back really and watch this match in and of itself and call it a classic. Maybe you wouldn't even go back in and of itself just watching the match from bell to bell and say that was an amazing, top-tier, proper caliber Kenny Omega or Young Bucks or even Jericho match, right? To do what they did and how they got there for the last 5 minutes was seriously, seriously impressive because I thought they had no chance. You were watching it kind of die for a long time, and it was quite sad. I'm a huge, obviously, fan of Bucks and Omega in particular, and it was just like they're just not doing it. It's not clicking. This one's fated to die.
Yeah, if you'd asked me beforehand, if you give me most of the card and said, third match for the end is going to be this Wild Texas Death match, main event is going to be MJF versus Jay White, we put it in the middle, I would have put my entire house on it being the TBS title, for
Very
example.
professional from the Young Bucks. Genuinely, because they've not done that in the past realistically.
Nor Jericho.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they deserve a bit of credit, even if it's kind of like maybe an aberration. But the story they told was never going to work. When you're so spent from that just that experience, and that's what it was, an experience, Texas Death. Like, if Jericho blades his arm, it's like, well, I want a boo-boo.
I thought that immediately.
I got to go a little boo-boo. Chris Jericho's got a little boo-boo. Like, who cares? You know what I mean?
River.
Like, Cry Me River.
It knackered the main event as well. Like, that death match, you probably can't do an injury angle of any description on a show with that match.
That's the thing. I was very impressed by MJF, and I'll reiterate this when it's time for that review, to get the crowd as much as he did. But, like, it's one of those where it's like, it would have been interesting to track if this was, like, third, and he's still, like, boom, wide awake, haven't been exhausted yet. Oh, Jericho can't go for that move. Oh, you might not be able to do the line tamer. You might have these questions about the dramatic sort of things that can't be done in this match because of the injury. And then sort of like, oh, can he get it? Can he get it? Who cares? You know what I mean? Who cares? And the super kicking of the arm, it's like, oh, that's really clever. Who cares? Like, tracking which arm doesn't matter. You can't really do anything. In the last 5 minutes of this, with like the Nick Jackson going, oh, no, I wasn't going to kick you in the balls, Kenny. And then Matt was like, well, I am. The ref's not looking. Boom. That tease for the V-trigger was so good. It's like, they are my best friends, so I could turn on him, but like, oh, you've just been such an annoying cunt recently. I'm just going to V-trigger you in the back of the head because you deserve some sense. You deserve to, like, just giving someone a shake, so it's going to V-trigger the back of your head. That was amazing. The best bit, after that V-trigger, right, bearing in mind, I'm a Kenny Omega, like, stan. I'm sorry, I just am. And I love the story he's telling and how believable it is that, you know, he's an athlete in decline. I've told that story for a few years now. But part of me just does miss the athlete. Did you see the pace at which he did the drop step, the penetration step, Wilborn, to get behind after V-trigger and Nick Jackson in the head, drop step, snapdragon to Matt Jackson. It's like, it's 2016 again.
So good.
And I'm, what do they say? Eating. Because Kenny Omega is serving 2016 pace and athleticism, and I'm eating the 2016 pace and athleticism.
Food.
He just looked like, when he's in there with certain people, and he himself said this about the Ospreay matches, he just gets unlocked. He feels like, when I'm with certain wrestlers in there, I just have to be as fast or as good as I used to be. It just gets unlocked. And he's obviously in there with the Bucks, and they deem themselves to the elite. So it's like, oh my God, you're moving like that again. It was absolutely thrilling. And then they got that classic Young Bucks finishing sequence where they always feel like they are a second away from victory, but then a second after that, they're a second away from defeat. That code breaker counter from The Undertaker.
Oh my God.
The last 5 minutes of this were amongst the most 5 impressive minutes of pro wrestling I've seen all year, under the circumstances, but in and of itself, not really a classic match.
Yeah, I was probably about on par with what I thought it was going to be because I just knew that Jericho...
I think, yeah, the story was flawed.
Yeah.
Like this again.
They were very careful not to tell you, oh, this is going to be like the Golden Lovers one, or this is going to be like the Revolution 2021. They stayed away from that on purpose because I just think they knew it's different this time. There's not quite as much love for the characters or the story, or indeed Chris Jericho, and indeed what can Jericho do. So
I'm surprised Jericho didn't do this in 2020, actually.
Yeah, he's sure he would have had a bit of it, wouldn't he? Like,
yeah.
The league guys are getting pretty old. I'm kind of the last guys to have friends. It was. This was good enough for me, quite honestly. It was an achievement, and that sounds patronising because obviously these four have done a million things in wrestling before. But yeah, following the match was no mean feat, and like the bulk of the story basically went to waste, didn't it? Like, here's this really nice thing that everybody's too busy going to the toilet or recovering from something else to really dig into. But this is where I want to give credit to the booking of AEW in general, is that I was really invested in that last hot 4 or 5 minutes because I really cared about the winners. Like, I wanted Jericho and Omega to win and take the shot off the Bucks because I wanted to like see where this like tantrum in this heel turn is going to go, because that match on Wednesday was class, and it was like, here's a look at what you're going to get out of the Young Bucks as part of this heel turn. So I was like, yes, please, I want more of that. So you got to take this title reign off them. You can't just now split the Golden Jets up. And I just felt engaged in why these characters want to win. And again, that's when I don't care if the match is any good. That is when I don't care that I'm not watching a Young Bucks Classic or a Kenny Omega Classic, because the result matters. And Jericho and Omega versus Ricky Starks and Big Bill. Ugh, that's strange. Like, again, that's like black and white filter on a Tony something. It's like, well, look, that's a bit different to what I expected. Like, it's far more interesting to me that this occurred and the Young Bucks now are going to go off in this different direction than had we just like maintained the status quo and Kenny and the Bucks try to stay friends. I was genuinely like on the hook for the exchanges because of that Young Bucks ability to be like, we're winning. Oh God, we've lost. Yeah. It flips that quickly. So I do like, for a number of these matches, I just felt like, I'm keen to see where this goes next on Dynamite, and that's been lacking so much on these pay-per-views this year.
All right, let's talk about the main event then. MJF versus, Jay White versus Adam Cole, followed by Jay White.
The idea that this could conceivably have existed is preposterous, and like, MJF's right there. It's ridiculous. Sorry.
Eventually, MJF versus Jay White for the AEW World Title. Despite adversity, MJF leaves as champion. Yeah.
You know what the worst thing is? And maybe I'm guilty of this. I try not to be. Is, you know what everybody else thought was wrong with this match? Well, got the real take here. Like, I didn't care that MJF, maybe because it just looked the tits, but I didn't care that MJF struggled through the knee injury and did that vertical leap to do the cutter and take him outside of the ring. It's like, you're joking. That's unfriggin' believable. Because professional wrestling operates on like this emotional logic. Like, that didn't make sense that the wrestler did that. Have you seen wrestling before? None of it does. It all depends on the extent to which you are willing to suspend your disbelief, and you have to do it at least quite a bit to watch pro wrestling. Understand some things don't really work in context, but then look at Road Warrior Hawk, and how he's cooler than everybody else's favorite wrestler, basically. I didn't really hate that, because the idea is that he is, and it's quite a timeless one, is that he is drawing on the support of the crowd to do something the likes of which his body ordinarily would not be capable. So I get it. That's not my big problem with the match, even though a lot of people, and I can understand their position as well, it was a bit, that move. It's one thing to fight back, but to do that one after all that.
It's a Rollins complaint quite often, isn't it?
Yes, so maybe you could justify it. Maybe it's because the move was so spectacular, maybe, that I was willing to let it slide. I'm way more pedantic about story beats on episodic TV than I am about moves in a wrestling match, but that's by the by. My problem with this match, right, is that, one, it was structurally very similar to one of my favorite matches of all time, Jay White versus Kota Ibushi, the 2019 G1 Climax final. Very, very structurally similar. I just didn't think it was as good, so it was already felt diminished. And as I said earlier, I was already in a mood because of that convoluted, illogical, contradictory, quite frankly, nightmare of a storyline. I kind of appreciate them for trying to think of something that addressed the elephant in the room.
Oh, that's it.
That they botched this build, and maybe some of the people in it didn't level up or whatever. It was cold. It was one of the coldest AEW title programs yet. Maybe this was a big frantic over/underthought overcorrection. I just thought, my big thing right with MJF is that he's so great most of the time. The other times he's frustratingly brilliant, because if he's got everything that you could possibly want in a professional wrestler and more, and he's so much more goddamn captivating, entertaining than a million people I watch on television. It's one thing, there's people I watch on TV, it's like, well, you're not good at this, you don't really captivate me, you're not that charismatic, you can't really talk that well, you just do nothing for me. Like that. You'll never say that about MJF. unlike them, who don't have the ability to just get charisma out of nowhere or be like really funny in like a really cruel way, like MJF can be, is that all he needs to do is stop doing things, as opposed to what 99% of his peers need to do is to do things that they can't do. And this thing with MJF, this is his own marketing and self-promotion, I just thought it really got in the way for me during this match, is that he keeps tweeting something along the following, and he keeps saying this in press conferences: best Iron Man match, best four-way match, best collision main event. And he wants the story of this reign to be, this is the best version of that, this is the best version of that, this was the best version of that, this was the best version of that, and the longest title holder as well. I could just feel during this match with the story and the Pillmanizing the ankle, I just really got the impression he wanted people to say, oh, that was the best underdog babyface fighting from underneath performance ever. And I just could see that in the match rather than feel the actual fighting from underneath underdog performance. I just thought it was a little bit tell don't show, and because that was the key story, it just got in its own way for me. I just thought they really overthought it. A general note on MJF, because he's the epicenter of conversation right now, is that like you got to give him his credit for how good he's been most of the time during this title reign. I can understand MJF fatigue. You kind of invite this when you really go for these long title reigns, but I think the idea that he's some kind of box office poison and identity destroying guy, it's just so unbelievably like capricious.
Well, I said there's always been a case in wrestling companies when business falls off that there's an in-ring boogeyman for this. It's Tony Khan. It's the booker.
MJF does have a big hand in his own creative, to be fair.
And he should. He's the world champion. He's the top guy. I think MJF, I disagree slightly, but based on our experience of the match.
Can I say one thing very quickly? I personally didn't really buy the selling as much. By the end of this match, you had that entire arena rocking.
Yeah.
So as an objective thing, for what they set out to do, to get those fans in the building, in the story, which, by the way, it's apparently drawn more than Wrestle Dream as a pay-per-view. If people want a referendum on his drawing prowess, it worked for them. It just didn't really work for me that much.
Well, it worked for me. My heart was beating out my chest with those near falls, and not a single time during the build, other than maybe week one, did I think Jay White was going to win the title. And I did like 3 separate times in that match. I think MJF here, if he's got this hand in creative, right, and he said, right, we're going to direct the match to go this way because I've got you're making me fight Jay White, but this is how we're going to do it to make it entertaining and make it matter. I think he was... And I think he gets accused correctly of sometimes thinking too big and overthinking a situation and how to solve a problem that maybe doesn't need the solution he's bringing to the table. But I can think of at least 2, and there's probably more, AEW world title matches or main events of pay-per-views where something has gone on the undercard that the main event simply cannot follow. Kenny Omega and Christian Cage could not follow All Out 21 brackets general. Hangman Page and Adam Cole. Jericho couldn't follow, like Hangman Page and Adam Cole couldn't follow Punk and MJF.
They got heat. They did get heat.
I just don't think people speak as fondly about that main event as they do about the dog collar match. These pay-per-views are supposed to have loads of everything, and often, like, the title ends up sort of suffering for that because there's almost a little bit more excitement. There's a frisson around a mid-carder ascending or a challenger ascending than this title match that you've now seen the two interact. I genuinely think this entire story, the show-long story and the match that it created was MJF's attempt to make all of this matter more and to leave you with a takeaway and leave you in the memory. It was evidenced in the building, coming alive for those near falls. I think the Adam Cole story is like alive and well, even though I know that there's just as many debates around the devil and the bro chat shows as there is around MJF and, you know, the damage he's supposedly doing to AEW. I just think this was, and I will be willing to say it might be a failure if you didn't enjoy the match. But again, I think this was a real noble attempt to just make these title matches matter, knowing what they might have to potentially follow on the show. Ultimately, you shouldn't have to be in that situation. Book your title program like it's the best thing on the show, which again, to me, comes back to the booker, the booking, and whatever MJF's got to do with that. I was on the hook for a title change and I wasn't for the duration of this storyline. And I thought that was really impressive. My criticism of the match, too long. For the story that you were telling, MJF selling the knee, he overcomes the odds. He kind of John Cena's it. I'll take 15 minutes of that, not 30.
It did. It stretched suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, I did buy some of the pinfalls because I thought, well, if he doesn't win, he becomes Jamie and Sandow. But that's Jay White for the It's done. Finished now.
Yeah, it didn't. It was not a good night for Jay White.
No, not
it
at all.
really wasn't. And that is maybe an actual failure as a champion because you're meant to really leave them something to go on to have.
Down the road, potential opponent for MJF. I forgot to mention earlier on. Will Ospreay's All Elite Brav. Thoughts?
He sounded like
Sorry, my anxiety's kicking in because I've had about 10 different text messages.
Will Ospreay.
I know it's unprofessional, but I've got anxiety. Leave me alone.
It was big news, but he sounded like a big idiot cutting that promo. But you get what you pay for. Like this was, he's gonna go and have the best matches in the world, and then in 3 months he'll be just a guy. Like he's like most people's wrestler of the year. Has these fantastic matches. It's a huge signing. It is a huge signing. WWE will have definitely wanted him.
Yeah,
he's definitely chosen AEW. Like presumably there's like the pre-existing relationship with New Japan, and AEW has had a lot to do with it, and it's great that he wants to see out his professional commitments in New Japan and all that sort of stuff. Like, this was a terrible promo. It was rubbish, and it doesn't matter. It does not matter because he's going to...
What's he doing?
What the hell was he doing? He's going to turn up in February and he's going to have these class matches, and then by the summer he'll either be world champion or just a guy. Tony Khan wants him to sell Wembley tickets, so I get that. It wasn't good.
What, he was like bollocking the audience who really greeted him enthusiastically.
And then stayed...
Was that just a mask slipping because
stayed quiet?
Because he's like a bit of a knob. The story is, and he's somehow clever enough to tell it, is how he's matured.
Yeah.
He's matured as well. Forget all of that Twitter history of his. Ugh, yikes. Oh, he's matured now, bruv. Took him longer than Mouse, but yeah, he's matured. Like, is it just the mask slipping? Like, what was he doing?
Right. I'll just say
Just
something.
trying to rule himself out of the devil conversation.
I think he was...
I'm here, but I'm not going to be... I know, I understand what he was trying to do here.
Will Ospreay is obviously, I'm not dumb, he's one of the best wrestlers in the world, if not the best, right? I don't think he is the solution to AEW's problems. Genuinely, I don't, because I think they've tried hire the best wrestler plenty of times before, and I think Will Ospreay will have some fabulous matches. They're going to get Omega Ospreay 3. That's a result. They're going to get him in something huge at Wembley. I think this is big. I think this absolutely paid off the build. There's no debate around this or anything like that. It's a massive get for them, huge. I don't think he's the answer. I don't think AEW is magically... In the same way that I don't think when MJF loses the belt, people want him to go to the Fed. That doesn't fix it. I don't think Ospreay arriving fixes the problems either. It's a signing, though. It's a good signing.
It's an incredible signing. Like, not only is he amazing in and of himself, what he does to other wrestlers simply by working them is unbelievable.
Right, 15 minutes to go. Let's dive into the comment section and the questions. Thank you to everyone who sent them in and for all of your donations. Mr. Phoenix starts us off. AEW just announced a vampire fatal four-way for End of the World or whatever the December nonsense is. Gangrel versus Kevin Thorne versus Vampiro versus Hangman.
Right? Oh, because of the blood drinking.
Yes.
Miss Phoenix, that's rubbish. That's really, that's bad patter. Do better.
Eric
Thanks for your donation.
Eric Vasquez, loving the Gangrel reference though. Says Gangrel goated. Afternoon, Dadley
Actually,
Boyz.
if that's triggered more donations, that's fine.
You are the effing Dadley Boys on the farther side. Eric Vasquez just woken up. Going to be disappointed when the devil is revealed and it's not Swerve now, unless it's DePunker.
It's definitely not DePunk. I don't know Phil Brooks personally. I've only enjoyed being irritated by, in equal measure, the CM Punk character. I would bet the house that he thinks the devil and the way it's framed is the lamest thing on earth. And he's pretty much indicated that on social media already. And that if he was the devil, and we know that he has his hand in the creative, when he was in AEW, he would make sure it looked a darn sight less lame than it does.
Yeah.
I don't think it's Swerve either.
I don't think so. Like, unless they were going to pivot. I certainly don't think they started as Swerve, and I don't think they'll pivot
I
either.
still don't care.
I do. I like
You saying Callis still? Or?
I think Don Callis or Adam Cole. Like, I think more Adam Cole after Saturday.
Yeah, and I've put the ring on bloody.
Yeah, but that's it. It's the Santos Ray thing from the other week with the brass knuckles, isn't it? We've done it. Everything went to plan.
OG Stem Cell, thank you for your donation. Swerve is set for Stardom. Oh, I thought he was going to stay in AW. Happy to see Hangman do what he's best at, getting others over. Is that his real time? I
think he's a genius I think he's a professional wrestling genius. I tweeted on the weekend, like, Hangman Page has had considerably greater matches than a lot of US-based wrestlers, past and present, whose names it would be sacrilegious to mention. I just didn't want to mention people specifically, right? And just invite the mutants or the whatever in the mentions. You throw the name, and obviously recency bias plays a part here, but if you throw a name at me about who's like a really good US wrestler, past or present, and I'm thinking Page is better than like a select few. He can be Foley, right? He can take you on an emotional journey like you did between 2020 and 2021 that very, very, very few people have. His promos are unbelievable. He should do it more often, but when he wants to go home, he will take you there and make you pay for it. He's so funny. He can drive a real emotional response, and he can be Mick Foley at the same time. I need him to have a second run with that belt without... the timing was so bad. I don't think it was amazing in and of itself, believe me, but like, if you didn't have, just signed Danielson and CM Punk and Adam Cole a month before belting you, it's just, I'd love to see a second go around. I think, of course he deserves it at some point.
It's going to be interesting to see, because I do think it'll go better second time around. Yeah, definitely.
Marcel Laviolette says, "Morning legends, I reposted the Swerve post-match promo." That's awesome. If you haven't seen
it's absolutely incredible.
It's on Marcel's Twitter. Have you seen it yet? Says Marcel. After Full Gear, who has the better character development, MJF or Hangman?
Hangman, pending the next few weeks.
Yeah,
I think it's critical. Like that Black Cloud promo that has largely been forgotten now. But, we were led to believe that was all about CM Punk and that. But just in general, you could take, look, how is it really going in AEW? It's not gotten better, has it? Guy came into his home. He drank his blood, but he lost. And wrestling's still supposed to be about wins and losses. And he's lost a Texas Deathmatch. So it's Hangman Page, because I just think MJF. I'm still backing MJF.
Yeah.
But it's time to lose the title. Whereas Page still feels like this is fairly fresh.
What was the question?
Who's got the better character development, MJF or Page?
Who needs it, or just...
After Full Gear, who has the better character development?
Page.
Marcel also says, please someone get a Hamlet a strong beer tomorrow above 6%.
Jesus, in front of the microphones. Are you kidding?
No. Session and food. It's the way to do it.
We'll be doing the Dadley Boyz live at the Mosaic Tap tomorrow. And if you want to get your hands on one of these fantastic posters that we will sign as well, if for a small fee. No, I'm joking. We will sign them for you. But if you come in, please do bring cash or download the PayPal app, because it's all very convoluted. But you can be able to get your hands on them tomorrow night for our live show. We will not be able to accept card. Yes, so download the PayPal app on your phone, or just bring good old-fashioned cash. Joshua Hill, we've got 10 minutes left.
Good old-fashioned Dax.
£10, thank you. We have 10 minutes left.
Okay.
Joshua Hill Lavender says, "G'day, Cobbies. Their deathmatch was the incarnation of the you sick flipper chant. However, in a left field call for the devil, Darby Allin, the man that death forgot, even retiring Sting, possibly. Thoughts?"
You could. I guess, is there any reason to rule him out yet? Darby Allin's the devil. He's not. He's not
slight as
anyone.
well, in terms of like when people say
you need him to create movement for Sting. Sting is not going to be associated with a heel for the rest of his career, much less until March. I don't see them dragging out this devil thing until March. Like, even if the plan was, it's not going well for them. It's not going well for them. This is the TNA thing. It is, I'm sorry.
It is a little bit TNA.
So I can't see them dragging this out until March. The timeline for it to be Darby, knowing what he has to be in terms of Sting, it's just I can't see that happening. And there's no real reason to turn Darby. Maybe one day, but he's just the best babyface.
Oh, yeah, not right now.
In ring, anyway.
Kid Icarus, cheers for the donation, says, quick question. Should Swerve secure stardom by becoming AEW World Champ next year? It's insanity if he isn't. He has spectacularly showcased supreme skills all year. For me, he must be champ. Cheers.
No, that's I said during the review, it's promotional malpractice if he isn't the top heel next year. Nothing short, nothing less. After that performance, after that work, he is, and it's the competition. It's not quite like the Attitude Era. Oh, we're all sharks in that. But if you look at everyone else who could have been given the opportunity, right, we'll give you the Hangman match on pay-per-view. We'll give you a lot of TV time. Could have been like Roosh, Takeshita. There's like millions of them. Swerve was the one who broke from that pack and deserved it.
Yeah.
You can feel it too. It'd be a blown opportunity if they don't.
Oh, it's all, yeah.
Better match, the Texas Death, than Omega Mox Lights Out, says John Catter.
I really loved that match. This was considerably better in every conceivable way.
I didn't like the match and agree.
Yeah, John says, Swerve and Hangman obviously stole the show. Do we need a part 3? Now there's a world title match.
That's what's great about this. In a year's time.
Yeah.
This was so scary and so great. And again, it just underscores how great this match was, that not only do I not know how they could conceivably top it, I might even be too frightened to watch them try. That's what we're talking about with this match.
Thank you, Jamie Phillips. Says, I've never managed to follow one of these live, so here's a fiver, or a flim, as we call them in Belfast. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
As well as that, thank you to Curtis Santiago. Says, first time I'm able to be live. Shout out from Geneva, Ohio.
Oh, thanks, Curtis.
Gavin Wilson says, with Hamlet posting...
Callum Wilson?
Gavin Wilson. With Hamlet posting Punk and MJF's first interaction on X, how much you have loved the feud ran back with babyface heel dynamics reverse.
I'd watch those two feud forever. It's not going to, like, Punk's not come back to AEW. I wish he was. Like, I wish he was.
5 days we've got to wait for his return.
Well, that's because I'm worried he's not come back to the Fed either, which is why I just wish he was coming back somewhere. Yeah, it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing. There was probably a version of that would have happened. Punk looked pretty pissed off when MJF was more over than him in Chicago that time. You would have got there eventually. They would have feuded forever. It always would have been class. We lost it.
We didn't lose it. Someone threw it away.
And one day I will forgive Jack Perry for that.
Also, Gavin says, see you tomorrow night. Should be a crack.
See you tomorrow, Gavin.
Gavin. Drew C says, good morning. Right now, the Devil has attacked Jay and the Acclaimed. Neither seems to be really that bad for either MJF or Adam. What is needed from the Devil to make the revelation matter?
Sorry, I got a message earlier that I did not want to read.
What is needed from the Devil to make the revelation of who it is matter? Because attacking Jay and the Acclaimed doesn't seem to be that bad for either MJF or Adam.
Yeah, no, this whole thing's been, again, like, the plot's been lost in terms of the creative. Like, the Devil, like, Jay White didn't care about the Devil. That was fundamental in making me personally, and I guess a lot of people not care. This Devil's not effective. This Devil seems like this. The motive of the Devil is to get people to think that MJF is a bad person. Okay, right, but he isn't anymore. So you know what I mean? Like, who's I don't know.
Well, it's the point that Adam Cole or MJF has got to be attacked for this for it to potentially be one or the other.
If you hate MJF so much, why don't you just bash him up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Rather than frame him.
It's like you're framing him for a crime. You're framing him as a bad person. Convincing, we'll beat up your friends. I don't know. Is there someone who wants to corrupt MJF? To either... It's a corruption at play. It's someone who wants to beat up the Acclaimed and say, see, Max, if you try to be good, it doesn't matter, you'll always be bad.
Yes.
Who's interested in turning MJF heel?
But yes, this is exactly what's happening.
Cynical internet wrestling fans.
Like,
or the Devil, because they're the only one who wants him to be heel again at this point.
There was this murmur about Richard Holiday, wasn't there, who has previous in MJF's life and doesn't like him becoming a good guy. That's one of them.
Christopher Daniels.
That's like higher power. Him. Like, but yeah, to answer your question, yes. Like, this Devil is like trying to show MJF that you've taken the wrong route, mate. Like, what's having friends been worth to you, really? Like, I'll just beat him up and show you this has been a waste of time.
The longest AEW world title reign.
You should be the worst guy.
Brandon Bethune.
Just make it more like sport. That's what you should do. Make it a bit more like sport.
Brandon Bethune says, do you guys think AEW and MJF have wasted the bidding war of 2024 story by fully committing to him as a babyface? Also, see you guys tomorrow live.
Thank you. I don't know. I think the thing with the MJF bidding war stuff, it's like that, I don't know, I just feel like that whole atmosphere, if you like, that wavelength, I can't really get my words out here, it's kind of gone. The idea of MJF being the only person who thinks this is a rinky-dink operation in this ATM machine, you can't really tell that story when a lot of that AEW base is kind of shrinking when they're in the arena and very much divided online. It's not that this brand loyalty to stick up for it. It's like, oh, you prick. Everyone else loves it here. And
Remember
you're
the
an
Punk
arsehole.
promo, where you want to go there, you can wrestle on there, buy one, get one free, stupendous. Like,
And everyone was like, yes, yes, yes.
none of that tracks anymore, does it?
Nah.
Like, the world has changed 10 different ways.
I think, yeah, the timeline's all wrong for that. It was a good idea at the time.
Yeah.
But then they did everything. Tony Khan plagiarized himself. Outcasts, homegrowns.
Yeah.
JAS, Sports Entertainers versus Blackpool Combat Club, real wrestlers. It's like, who cares, man? You've just ruined it again. You had this guy who was the prick who just wanted it to be an ATM machine. Cynical prick, MJF heel. And you've just applied that element of his character to, like, what, 2 or 3 more of your storylines.
Final few questions. Ethan just simply says recency bias, but the barbed wire chair whipping across Hangman Page's face is one of the most best gone awry spots that aids the fiction. I think we all agree on that one. Mark Lee Willis says much love to you guys. See you in Newcastle soon, Mark. See you tomorrow night. Strange Pixie says love Full Gear. Hangman versus Swerve equals bloody glorious.
Yeah.
Adam Zingala said I wanted so badly to see Prince Nana do the dance after being out through the table while selling it.
Might have undercut things somewhat.
Somewhat, yes. Mr. Phoenix says, to be clear, looking forward to the Continental Classic. Bunch of awesome stars and Kingston, writes Mr. Phoenix. His words, not
come
mine.
on.
That's a nice dig.
But did they make a new title to merge with the 2 other titles
Don't
to
know.
make a new title? Honestly confused.
I don't. Has anyone got a satisfactory explanation?
I've not got satisfactory brackets. It starts on Wednesday.
Don't know. I do not know.
Yeah.
They made another mess that they have to clean up.
Sounds like Big Show's bumping on a car.
I hope so. That's awesome.
We'll conclude with this. Thank you, Bassam Jalabneh, for your donation and
sorry
this
about
question. How ruined is Jay White out of 10?
That'd be right, man.
The fact that you have to ask the question is not good. Again, the champion is meant to elevate the challenger to a degree. But come on. A big thing as well is like it doesn't always begin and end with the booker in pro wrestling. I think that mentality is a hangover of Vince actually being true in his case. The booker did ruin everything because so many people that he botched on that main roster got over in NXT and elsewhere. Sometimes the performer just doesn't level up. And I've made this point to Wilborn, right, when we were previewing Collision or at various points over the past however many weeks. In a month's time, if I was to put either of my esteemed colleagues or my beautiful producer on the spot and say, you've got 10 seconds to tell me something that Jay White said. That wasn't one of his catchphrases in that feud
I'll say breathers
with MJF.
Catalyst or exotic
In a month's time.
Oh, no. Nothing. No, you did.
There's not a soundbite. There's not a quote from one of those promos. There wasn't like this really like graphic threat. That's just a much cooler way of saying, I'm going to kick your ass. Like even Moxley, right, on the go home with Cassidy was like, I'm going to grind you into dust. Not one of his best, but he's still got this way of just saying the things that all wrestlers have to say. I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to win. I hate you. Those are 3 of the main things that a wrestler says. It's a way of delivering that in a really, really cool way. John Moxley once said, I'm Napalm Death. John Moxley has said, I'm going to leave you, like, things that I'm going to leave you in a pile of your own blood and all this sort of stuff. Jay White has got this pretty suboptimal way of saying nothing. So what I'm getting at is that even if that match had gone really well and a lot more people liked it and et cetera, I still don't think if he's delivered on the night after he's been given interview time to say his own things, Tony Khan is going to be like, right, Wembley Stadium next year, he's about 10 that need to build around to make the show as good as it could be. I don't think he's putting Jay White on there. I just don't think he was that good in the build.
No, it's not. It's not over. Like there will not be a burial in the next 10 years.
He's a
in
very
AEW.
young bloke.
Yeah, like there'll be nothing in the next 10 years that will compare with some of the WWE burials under the Vince era. No. And a lot of those wrestlers recovered. And like wrestling just moves forward. Like Times Arrow just marches forward with WWE and AEW. It's weekly television all the time. He'll be fine. But you just watched them decide what his level was within AEW.
Yeah, there's plenty of other belts to go after in AEW. And I like the fact he can retreat back into that. I really like the Bing Bing Gang as a stable.
I love them, and then at the same time saw where their level was during this program, and that's all right too. I think that's okay.
Right, well, this has been the Full Gear review. Thank you to everyone who's joined us, whether you've just sat and watched or you donated or you've asked questions. Thank you so much for doing so. And we will be back this time next week to review Survivor Series War Games, of course. Continue the conversation with us on social media at What Culture WWE. Where actually, you can follow all three of us. You can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
You can follow Michael Sidgwick at
M. Sidgwick.
Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at What Culture WWE. Follow our brilliant producer at It's Adam Nicholas. Join us tomorrow night for our live show.
It's sold out.
£10 cash or
Sold out.
Download the PayPal app for your phone. Yeah, join us if you're coming. I mean, just remember it's tomorrow night. And in the interim, if you want to enjoy more content, What Culture Wrestling Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts, right now available, the SmackDown review and the Raw preview. And we'll be back to review Monday Night Raw tomorrow. But for now, this has been the Full Gear review. My thanks to Hamlet, to Sidgwick, to Nicholas. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.